In 2025, while we debate politics freely on social media, 25 million North Koreans face execution for a single dinner conversation. One man nodded his head at the wrong moment, agreeing with a neighbor who said, "Whether it's Kim Yo-jong or Kim Ju-ae, we'll starve either way." That nod nearly cost him his family. Today, you'll hear how a simple gesture of agreement became a death sentence, and how one family risked everything to escape a regime where thinking is a crime. If these stories matter to you, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us bring these untold stories to light. Together, we can be a voice for those who cannot speak. The whole town was buzzing. 2 residents from Haeju had been arrested. Word was they'd criticized a Kim Yo-jong speech and got dragged off by the Boibu State Security, the agency that monitors thoughts and hunts political criminals. I stopped walking. I'd been at that drinking session. Didn't say anything, but I'd nodded. That alone was dangerous enough. When I got to the factory, the mood had shifted. People who normally couldn't shut up were silent. Only the machines made noise. Someone muttered quietly. They say even listening can get you in trouble. Orders from the top, meaning just hearing it could implicate you. My hands shook, but I kept my face still. I felt someone staring. An ordinary glance felt sharp as a blade. At lunch, nobody mentioned it. Everyone knew, but we all pretended otherwise. Speaking up could make you next. I tried to eat but couldn't swallow. Managed a few spoonfuls of broth, then set the bowl down. All afternoon, I couldn't focus. I'd stand there mid-swing with the hammer, staring at nothing. The foreman yelled, but I barely heard him. One sentence kept looping in my head. Kim Yo-jong or Kim Ju-ae, doesn't matter who's in charge. We're starving either way. I kept seeing the face of the guy who'd said it. Red-faced from drinking, laughing. That laugh was gone now. On my way home, I passed his house. The door was shut tight, no light in the windows. Usually you'd hear kids playing around dinner time. Not today. Too quiet. Laundry hung on the line in the yard, swaying in the wind. A house without its people. The neighborhood watch captain stood at the corner. The People's Unit. Leader, lowest level enforcer, responsible for surveillance and ideological education. He was checking faces as people walked by. I kept my head down and moved fast. I could feel his eyes on my back. When I got home, my wife asked, "Did you hear?" I nodded. Her face was pale. Our 9-year-old son was in his room drawing. No idea what was happening. I ran my hand through his hair, but my fingers trembled. That night I couldn't sleep. Looking out the window, the arrested man's house was still dark. A few days ago, he was just a regular neighbor. Overnight, gone. Who's next tomorrow? The day after? Looking back, that was the beginning of the end. A single word, a nod, these things decided life or death, and I was standing right in the middle of it. The morning after the arrests, the house was completely empty. I walked past it again on my way to work. Same as yesterday, door shut, no lights. But something was different. Yesterday it was quiet. Today it felt hollow. At lunch, someone said it. They took the whole family. The wife, the kids, even the old mother. An entire family vanished overnight. Guilt by association. In North Korea, if one person commits a crime, 3 generations pay. If your grandfather's a criminal, so are you. Nobody talked about it for long. Even asking was risky. Just listening could get you pulled in. I set down my spoon halfway through the meal. Lost my appetite completely. That afternoon, I went to the factory bathroom. The face in the mirror looked unfamiliar. Pale. Eyes unsteady. I splashed water on my face, but the shaking didn't stop. My mind kept running calculations. How many people were at that drinking session? Who spoke first? Who laughed? I didn't speak, but I nodded. That could be read as agreement. I didn't laugh, but I didn't stop it either. That was complicity. After work, walking home felt heavy. My feet dragged. Turning the corner, the neighborhood watch captain came toward me. My heart stopped, but he walked right past. Didn't even look at me. When I got home, my wife was in the kitchen making dinner. She looked normal, but her hands kept shaking. She dropped the pot lid several times. My son came out of his room. Still had his school bag on. He looked at me and asked, "Dad, are we going to die too?" I couldn't breathe. Not a question a 9-year-old should be asking. But in this country, 9-year-olds had to know these things to survive. I couldn't answer, couldn't lie, couldn't tell the truth. I just held him. He felt so small. Too small. That night, my wife and I sat across from each other. The food got cold between us. Neither of us picked up our spoons. She spoke first. "You were there too, weren't you?" I nodded. No point hiding it anymore. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Just bit her lip. That night I didn't sleep. Out the window, that house was still dark. Yesterday, today, tomorrow, the lights in that house would never come on again. Never! One thought kept circling. It's not about Kim Yo-jong or Kim Ju-ai. In this country, thinking itself is a crime. My son's question echoed in my ears. Could we disappear too? The fact that I couldn't answer terrified me most. Not being able to answer meant it was possible. That question changed everything. No going back. 3 days passed. The arrested man's house stayed empty. The neighborhood got quieter. That afternoon, a stranger appeared at the factory, wearing a suit. On a weekday in North Korea, a suit meant one of two things: party official or state security agent. The Bowibu handles ideological inspection and political prisoner arrests. He walked slowly through the factory. We pretended to work, but our hands shook. Hammer strikes echoed hollow. Even the machine seemed quieter than usual. He whispered something to the foreman. The foreman nodded. A moment later, the foreman called my name. My legs went weak, but I couldn't show it. I walked out as calmly as I could. I felt everyone's eyes on my back. I entered the office. The man in the suit sat staring at me. No expression. That was scarier. He flipped through some papers, then spoke. Did I know about the recent arrests? He added that they knew who'd been at that drinking session. My heart sank. But I kept my face still. He kept talking. It wasn't just the person who spoke, he said. People who heard it and didn't report it were guilty too. I couldn't respond. My mouth went dry. He stared at me for a while, then closed the file. Said I should be careful from now on. Said they'd be listening. That was it. I left and went back to the factory floor. Coworkers glanced at me, but nobody asked. Couldn't ask. I didn't say anything either. All afternoon, I couldn't work. Kept making mistakes. Dropped parts, measured wrong, lost tools. The foreman yelled, but I barely heard. After work, I heard the rumor at the neighborhood well. Found out who'd informed. A poor resident from the same neighborhood. Same guy who'd borrowed rice from the arrested man just a month ago. I heard why he did it. 5 kilograms of rice. That's what the Bowibu paid him. One man's life traded for 5 kilograms of rice. Walking home, I ran into the informant. Coming around the corner, our eyes met. He looked away. I walked past like nothing happened, but a chill ran down my spine. That man had been starving too. In winter, we'd sit around the stove together talking. Our kids played together. And for a few kilograms of rice, he sold out his neighbor. I told my wife when I got home what happened today. She didn't say anything, just went to the kitchen and started washing dishes. The clatter of bowls, the water louder than usual. That night, my son had a nightmare, screamed in his sleep. I ran to him. He was drenched in sweat, shaking. I held him and rubbed his back. After a while, he fell asleep again. I went out to the yard, looked up at the sky. No stars, low clouds. I couldn't breathe. Looking back, hunger turned people into informants. Starvation swallowed conscience. Fear turned neighbors into enemies. In this country, to survive, you had to kill someone. And I could be next. Anytime. That night, my wife spoke first. We can't live like this anymore. Not with the kids. I couldn't answer. Once you say the word defection out loud, there's no going back. But my wife's eyes had already decided. I thought about it for days. Woke up thinking about defection. Went to bed seeing arrest scenes. At the factory, at home, my head filled with the same questions. What happens if we stay? What happens if we leave? About a week later, I walked past that house again on my way home. The family that vanished a month ago. The gate still shut. Weeds starting to grow in the yard. I looked through the crack in the door. A pair of children's shoes sat on the porch. Small sneakers. The owner was gone. The shoes sat there, soaked in rain. In that moment, I decided. I told my wife when I got home, "Let's leave." She nodded. Didn't cry. She'd already prepared herself. We sat our son down. I didn't know how to explain it. How do you tell a 9-year-old about defection? But he already knew. "We're going far away, right?" I nodded. He asked again. "We're not coming back?" "No." That was all. He didn't ask anything else, just went to his room and got his bag, trying to figure out what to pack. We prepared quietly. Couldn't let it show. Even packing was dangerous. Couldn't say goodbye to anyone. We lived normally while preparing bit by bit. First, we saved money. The factory rations weren't enough. We started selling things from the house. Blankets, dishes, clothes. Sold them at the market one by one. Worried people would notice, so we spread it out. We needed a broker. You can't defect alone. Didn't know how to cross the border. Didn't know where to go in China. We needed help. I asked around carefully through people I knew. Didn't ask directly. Asked indirectly. "What's the northern border region like? How does the trade work?" The other person caught on, but didn't say it outright. About a month later, I got word. Someone wanted to meet. The place was an empty warehouse near the market. 11 at night. At the meeting time, a man was standing there. Couldn't see his face. In the darkness, just his cigarette glowing red. He asked how many family members. How much money did I have? I answered, 3 people. Not much money, but I'd pay back when I got to Korea. The man thought for a while, then nodded. "I'll contact you again in a week." That was it. The man disappeared into the darkness. I went home. From that night, the waiting began. Each day felt long. Would he contact me? Was this a trap? All kinds of thoughts circled my head. A week passed. Contact came. Leaving in 3 days. Location and time included. 3 days left. We started final preparations. Packed clothes for my son. My wife got dried corn for eating on the road. 2 days left. I went to the factory as usual. Talked with co-workers. Nobody knew this was the last time. 1 day left. I looked around the house. We'd lived here over 10 years. Where our son was born. Where our family laughed together. But now we had to leave. That night, I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow, we'd leave this land. We wouldn't come back. Not alive. 4 a.m. We headed to the meeting point. We packed light. A few changes of clothes, dried corn, a water bottle. That was it. My son carried 1 bag. My wife had a small bundle. I closed the door. Didn't lock it. We weren't coming back anyway. Walking out of the alley, I looked back. The house stood in darkness. The last I'd see of it. The meeting point was an abandoned factory on the city outskirts. When we arrived, a truck was waiting. The broker waved. "Get in." People were already in the back of the truck. About 6. Everyone traveled light. Nobody spoke. In the darkness, we just checked each other's faces. The truck started. Bodies swayed with the rattling frame. I held my son tight. My wife gripped my arm. Her hands were cold. We drove for hours. The sun started to rise. Through the gaps, I could see outside. Mountain road. Almost no people. Around 10 a.m., the truck stopped. The broker opened the back. "Signal to get out." We climbed down quietly. Halfway up a mountain. Dense trees. The broker led, we followed. Narrow path. Slippery underfoot. After about 2 hours walking, the broker stopped. Ahead, a checkpoint. Border station. We held our breath. The broker signaled, "Go back." We went deeper into the mountain, circling around the checkpoint. There was no path. We pushed through trees, passed through thorn bushes. My son fell but didn't cry. Covered his mouth and got up. My wife grabbed his hand. Afternoon came. Felt like I couldn't walk anymore. My legs trembled. But we couldn't stop. The broker didn't rest. Near sunset, we saw the river. The Tumen, narrower than I expected, but the current was fast. China was on the other side. The broker turned and said, "From here, you're on your own. If you fall in the water, I'm not pulling you out." We nodded. No other choice. Darkness fell. The broker gave the signal. "Cross now." People started going down to the river one by one. My turn came. I put my son on my back and stepped into the water. It was ice cold. Felt like my heart stopped. I moved forward step by step. water up to my waist. My son gripped my neck tight. I could hear his breathing in my ear. My wife followed behind me. Halfway across, my foot slipped. Lost balance. Almost went under, but barely held on. My son swallowed a scream. I kept walking. The current got stronger. Felt like my body would wash away. But I didn't stop. The far bank got closer. Just a few more steps. I reached out. Then it happened. Lights. In the distance, flashlight beams swinging. Patrol! The broker shouted. Run! We kicked through the water and scrambled onto land. Running, gasping for air, shouting behind us. Gunshots too. We ran through the trees. Branches scratched my face. Rocks tripped me. I got up and ran again. How long did we run? Felt like my lungs would burst. But I couldn't stop. The sounds behind us faded. The broker stopped. We stopped too. Everyone collapsed on the ground. Gasping for breath, I put my son down and looked at his face. He was okay. No injuries. My wife was safe too. The broker said, "This is China now." Even then, I knew going back meant death. To survive, we could only move forward. The first night in China, we hid in an abandoned house. The walls were crumbling, half the roof gone. We sat on the floor and took out the dried corn, soaked it in water and ate. My son fell asleep. My wife leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. I couldn't sleep. At dawn, the broker brought a Chinese man. Tall, sharp eyes. This person would take us to Yunnan province, but there was a price. He pulled out a piece of paper. A promissory note? A promise to repay the money after reaching Korea. 10 million won per person. 3 of us meant 30 million won. I signed the paper. My hand shook. The Chinese man handed me a slip with a phone number. "Call this number when you get to Korea," he said. "If you don't pay, we'll contact your family in North Korea." 2 days later, we got in a truck. Hid between cargo boxes. Hard to breathe. Drove all day. There was a checkpoint midway. We held our breath. My son suppressed a cough. The checkpoint cleared and the truck moved again. On the 3rd day, we arrived at a small village. Hid in an abandoned building. Couldn't go outside. If the Chinese police caught us, we'd be sent back to North Korea. A week passed. No contact. The corn ran out. The water, too. My son said he was hungry, but I had nothing to give him. On the 10th day, a Korean-Chinese person appeared. Spoke Korean. I was relieved, but his eyes were cold. He brought bread and water. We ate frantically. The next day, he said we needed more money. Prices went up, he said. 500,000 won extra per person. I protested. "We already signed a note," I said. He shrugged. "Then stay here, or I could report you to the police." No choice. I signed again. Total of 45 million won. About a month later, we moved to Yunnan province. The border was close. Laos was right there. We met another defector family there. 4 of them. Same situation as us. We waited together. A few days later, that family disappeared. Gone overnight. I asked the broker. He said they left early. But something was off. Later, I found out. That family got sent back to North Korea. Couldn't come up with the money. The broker handed them over to the police. That's when it hit me. The people helping you and the people betraying you wear the same face. Without money, you get discarded any time. Even the Korean-Chinese person I'd trusted at first, same deal. Acted kind, but it was all about money. In China, we weren't people. We were merchandise to be sold or discarded. In North Korea, one word was a crime. In China, having no money was the crime. A few days later, the signal came. Heading to the Laos border. We crossed mountain paths at night. Walked and walked again. Through trees. Through thorn bushes. At dawn, the border came into view. Wire fence. The broker pointed to a cut section. We crawled through. Clothes torn, hands bleeding. But we didn't stop. We stepped onto Laotian soil. But we couldn't relax. Laos also sent defectors back to North Korea. We had to be careful here too. The broker said we had to get to Thailand. Get caught by the police there, he said. Only then could we go to Korea. One last hurdle remained. From Laos to Thailand took another week. We rode in trucks. Sometimes we walked. Crossed the Mekong in a small boat. The current was strong. The boat rocked. I held my son tight. We arrived near the Thai border. The broker gave final instructions. From here, you go alone, he said. Go into the village, find the police, tell them you're a defector. They'll send you to the Korean embassy. We nodded. The broker disappeared. Now we really were alone. We walked into the village. People stared at us. Our clothes were ragged, our faces dark from the sun. We looked like outsiders. Before long, a police car came. 2 officers got out, approached us, asked something in Thai. I pulled out the English words I knew. North Korea, North Korea. The officers looked at each other, radioed somewhere, put us in the car. I was scared, but we didn't resist. We went to the police station, a small building. Inside, a few desks. The police sat us down in chairs. We waited a long time. Someone came. An interpreter who spoke Korean. Asked where we were from. We're from North Korea. When did we leave? Did we come through China? I answered honestly. The interpreter relayed it to the police. A few days later, we were moved to an immigration detention center. A big building. Inside were many defectors. We weren't the only ones. We spent a month at the center. The room was small, but we had a place to sleep. They gave us food. Compared to North Korea or China, it was heaven. Someone from the Korean embassy came, verified our identities, where we were from, why we defected. I told them everything. The drinking session, the arrested neighbors, a few more days passed. We got word that our exit clearance came through. We could go to Korea. We went to the airport, got on a plane. My first time on a plane. My son stared out the window. There were clouds. The plane took off. My body felt weightless. My wife gripped my hand. Tears fell. That's when the words from the beginning came back to me. Kim Yo-jong or Kim Ju-ae, doesn't matter who's in charge. We're starving either way. Those words brought us all the way here. Now I knew exactly how terrifying a single sentence could be. We landed at Incheon Airport, spring of 2025. But we couldn't leave right away. Had to go through National Intelligence Service screening. All defectors go through this. The investigation was thorough. Where were you born? Who's your family? Why did you defect? They repeated the same questions multiple times. Filtering out lies. They were checking we weren't North Korean operatives. Took several days. I answered honestly. Had nothing to hide. After the investigation, we went to Hanawon, the settlement support center for North Korean refugees. We spent 3 months there. We relearned Korean. Different from how we spoke in the North. We got social adaptation training. How to use banks, ride the subway, use cell phones. We left Hanawon. Got settlement support funds. They provided temporary housing. Now it really began. But the debt remained. A month later, the broker contacted me. Time to pay up. Included an account number. I started working. Got a job at a factory. 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Worked weekends, too. The money I earned went to the broker. It took 3 years. Paid back all 45 million won. After the last transfer, I felt lighter. Now I was truly free. My son goes to school. His Korean is good. He's made friends. When I see him smile, I think coming here was the right decision. Sometimes I watch North Korean news. Kim Yo-jong appears. Kim Ju-ae appears. Some people wonder who'll be the successor. But I know, Kim Yo-jong or Kim Ju-ae doesn't matter. For the people still inside North Korea, life won't change. They'll still starve, still be watched. Families will still disappear over a single word. Now I can say this, freely, without fear of who might be listening. A world where families vanish over one sentence that shouldn't exist anymore. A country where thinking itself is a crime needs to end. I think about the people still in North Korea, living in fear right now. I hope someday they'll feel freedom too. I hope this story reaches someone. I want to share the truth about North Korea. That's why I'm speaking. Thank you for listening to this story. Please help share this truth with more people through your subscriptions and likes. Thank you.